So I was editing some photos from my recent trip to the Grand Canyon, and it got me thinking about why I love the Fujifilm x100v so much and why it's my travel companion of choice. So I know it's been a while since we had a talking video about the x100v. I've been experimenting and trying a lot of different things, but finally back with another one. So the Fujifilm x100v is my travel companion of choice. I want to talk about why, the several different reasons why I love it so much for those purposes, and why you guys might as well if you have the x100v or you're thinking about buying the camera or whatever, you know. The x100v has always been kind of a special camera for me, especially because when I first got it and when I first started using it, it's what really kind of sucked me into photography in that manner, in that way. And I still stand by that. Obviously, I'm probably going to be buying more cameras in the future. That's also just something I have become accustomed to and realize I can't really get away from. I really want to try a lot of different things, setups, lenses, etc., etc. But of course, if I had to abandon all of it, at this very important time, the V would be the one camera I would keep. So let's get started. Let's talk about it a little bit. Why do I like this camera so much for travel? The first and kind of obvious reason is because of size. The x100v is one of the smallest kind of compact cameras. It's a little bigger than some of the other ones you can get, but it's a very small and portable camera, especially because of the lens. It's a pancake lens, so it's very portable. You can bring it around to a lot of different places. It can fit in a lot of different bags. And I think that's one of the most important things with this camera is because you can get a lot of high quality footage, not only photographic footage, but for video footage as well in such a small and compact solution. And like you can argue GoPro is smaller, you can argue the Sony X100, or not X100, Sony R100 series or whatever is better or whatever, but I think the image quality that comes out of this camera is much more worth it. And I think just the feeling and experience of using this camera, especially when you're traveling, is just something that is like no other. So small size and portability is something that plays a big factor in when I travel. I always want to bring kind of the least amount of stuff I have to. I never want to overpack. And so bringing this camera as like kind of a one and only camera is really, really solid. Obviously, if you wanted something more of a complete travel solution, you'd probably get a zoom lens, which is why the X-T4 with the 16 to 55 millimeter is another travel companion of my choice, not for the size, but for the flexibility of the lens. But if I had to abandon all and prioritize size, obviously the V would be it. Next thing I want to talk about is weather sealing. Now, obviously weather sealing is useful and handy, but it's one of those things that you don't really need until you need it. You can pretty much go your day-to-day without weather sealing for this camera because it's not always raining unless you live in a climate where it's always raining. But until that splash of water hits or until you, I don't know, spill a beer or something on top of your camera, you don't really need weather sealing, but it's one of those things that really, really comes in handy when you do. So the X100v has weather sealing if you attach a UV filter to the front, and it's one of the most useful things because yes, I have spilled beer on it before and it's fine. It's perfectly fine. But weather sealing is extremely useful because it gives you that little bit of security that you have for a camera, that you don't have to worry about your camera malfunctioning, breaking, etc., etc. if you get a splash of water or some kind of liquid on it. So I think that is very useful in travel situations because you can't always predict the weather of wherever you're going to. You might come into unexpected climates, etc., etc. that puts you in a situation where you will be glad to have that little bit of security for your camera. You know what I mean? So the X100v is very well built, very sturdy, and can handle most situations. And the weather sealing is a big factor that helps me come with that security to bring it for traveling. Another reason why I love the X100v for travel is for focal length. Now, it might vary by preference, but the 35mm equivalent is my favorite focal length personally to shoot with because it's such a flexible focal length. So I can step back, I can shoot it like a wide, like a 16mm. I can step forward, I can shoot it close like a 35mm or even a 50mm. APS-C size, of course, is what I'm talking right now. And also, it allows me to get portraits and also landscapes. So that's why I think it's so very flexible and a useful focal length, especially for travel. It's because you're always taking pictures of your homies, your friends, your family, your people. And so for that, you need a lens that is able to get up close, but also that is not too wide. So you want to be able to capture those landscapes as well. So if I was shooting with something like a 16 millimeter, for example, that's too wide, or even a 28, or if I was shooting with something like APS-C size 16 millimeter or 18 millimeter, it might be slightly too wide. 18 you can get away with because that's the standard focal length for like a smartphone. But I feel like for more pleasant portraits, I want something slightly tighter. So the 23 millimeter lens or 35 equivalent isn't particularly a portrait lens, but I've gotten some amazing portrait images with it because all I have to do is step up a little closer. And so that's why I think this is a very solid portrait and also landscape lens, is because all I have to do is step up closer, step up farther, and I can get the image I want in most travel scenarios. Like I said, if you really want the best all around, you would get like a zoom lens or something like that. But then you would be sacrificing size and stuff. So the X100V checks all those marks for me. I love it for travel. Next up I want to talk about is speed. And now speed isn't really necessary. I've shot a lot of images and gotten a lot of good images with much slower lenses and slower bodies than the X100V. But the X100V is a very fast camera. It has a newly updated autofocus system, etc., and the lens is new as well, remodeled from the X100F, the previous series. So it's going to be able to be faster than a lot of the cameras that you may or may not be used to, you know what I mean? It's very up to par in terms of autofocusing system. And the reason why I think this is useful in travel is because I personally like to take a lot of candids. I like to be in the moment and try and not be noticed, especially by my friends, even though they probably more than likely know I'm taking a picture of them. But I like to be kind of, you know, I want to get those candid shots. I think they're the most natural. I think they look the best and it's less staged, you know what I mean? So that's why I think autofocus speed plays a very big factor into why I like using this camera as a travel companion of choice, is because a lot of times I see those moments and they pass by, and the X100V allows me to capture a lot of those moments because of how fast it is. Now, obviously, your timing just has to be better if you have a slower camera body, but it allows you to get that little kind of leeway that I think helps enough. I'm not making the best case for this right now, but you know what I mean. Autofocus speed can come in handy, and it allows you to capture those moments that you would otherwise miss. Now, is autofocus the most important thing? Obviously not, because your skill is more important than that, in my opinion. If you know the right timing, then the slower your camera is doesn't make that much of an impact on whether you get that shot or not. But it's one of those things that allows you to be more flexible and gives you that little extra bit of leeway just in case you mess up, because you are gonna mess up, especially when you're out there trying to enjoy your time and your life, as well as capture images, you know what I mean? So that is one of the most helpful things I feel like this camera is, or has, because it's very fast. So anyways, those are the main reasons as to why I love using this camera, and it is my travel companion of choice. If you're thinking about getting this camera, I would consider what you would be using it for, what you plan to be using it for, and what you enjoy in photography, because that's probably the most important part. I've kind of come to terms with the fact that not everyone is gonna like the X100V, and I'm kind of in a select group of people that would love this camera for using for everything. Not everyone's gonna like this camera because people like changing lenses and stuff like that. So that's just something to keep in mind if this camera suits your needs, your specificities, and what you want to use it for. But if you're thinking about picking up a camera for traveling that is able to get high quality stuff, but also be super small, portable, and convenient to use, then I can't recommend the X100V enough. And this is just from my personal experience, obviously, so take it with a grain of salt. But I've been on many trips, and I will be going on many more trips with this camera just because I love it so much. So anyways, yeah, hopefully you guys like this video. If you like this video, please go ahead and like the video down below. Subscribe to this channel for more Fujifilm stuff, travel stuff, photography stuff. And yeah, I will see you guys in another video. Thanks for watching. Peace.